scoring chances I just mentioned, it's 15 goals below league average. And there's a few other guys in the team that are culprits here. So it's like saying your process is great, you get plenty of scoring opportunities, but you don't finish. And I think they're trying to figure out what they can do to help their process and help their finishing ability because they've been defending much better. And Igor's playing lights out, but they're not winning hockey games.
What'd you make of that Wild team who started the year pretty good? They're only 500, but like I kind of like what they're building there.
Well, the Wild were, you know what, Borny, I mean, their power play is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I'll start there. So I was looking at all of their power play chances yesterday morning, preparing for the game, and they've scored 10 power play goals going into last night. 6 of them have been across the screen. And I'll explain this one too, because the video is outstanding. That Eriksson Ek, he's the best net front guy in the NHL at screens. Yeah, he at least registers the most of them. And what he does is when he gets net front, he's working in tandem with Kaprizov. And you know who else is nasty is that Zeev Buliam, the defenseman. I mean, that guy can pedal up there as good as anybody in the league. He's nasty. So he or Kaprizov are up top. And I think I mentioned this in the previous show where they actually cross the midline at the blue line. They cross the midline. And as soon as they do that, you can see the goalie's head go from strong side shoulder to weak side shoulder, and they throw it back across the other way. Well, the goalies are getting all tied up. And there's also times where Eriksson Ek is just screening on the pass, and they're hitting Kaprizov to the Leon Draisaitl spot, and he's just teeing off. I mean, that's a one-timer. Like, Panarin had the same opportunity in Buffalo and against the Edmonton Oilers with Skinner, who we all know how well Skinner moves east to west, and he drops his chin, and he dusts it off once, and he skates a stride closer to the net. But by that point, it's like 5 Mississippis have already expired, and you can't compare that shot to the Kaprizov one. It's just a totally different thing. And you know what? While I'm talking about the game, I'm going to bring one last thing up, just overall hockey acumen here. Last night, Brodin scored a goal off the face-off on Shesterkin. If you guys saw it, it went off the stick of Lafreniere. And Lafreniere was late to get there. And for anybody that's defending a clear-sighted shot, you must know this. Let the goalie take it from there. It was really on the outside slot, just to the outside slot. It wasn't really dead slot by any means. The shot wasn't that difficult. But Igor Shesterkin this year, guys, every shot that he's seen for more than half of a second, he has a 100% save percentage. So, like, let him have that one.
Right.
It goes off the shaft of Lafreniere, it dips down, and that was the score that equalized the game at 1-1. But I think that players should know, if you're going to be late to get in the lane, let them have it. If you're going to be early and you can body it and force a shot to the short side, that's obviously the name of the game.
A reminder that this hour of Real Kipper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. You're watching and listening to Steve Alaquette, analyst with the New York Rangers, CEO of ClearSight Analytics. All right, we had a pretty lengthy conversation, debate on Anthony Stolarz with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he had a lot of things to say after the loss against Seattle on the weekend. We're kind of split here. Well, not really. It's JB and Sammy against me on whether or not Stolarz went too far, crossed the line. Certain things were okay, some weren't. Where do you stand on goalies being in a position now to kind of critique, certain players, and whether Stolarz totally had the green light for you or not?
Okay, so my feeling initially when I saw the play was, of course, he can be pissed off because Carlo's just standing there. And I tweeted out that, look, I think that first he was beat up on the head, and then he looked up and he saw his teammate standing there, and then he just snapped and decided to throw the net off. So I would leave it there because the message would get delivered and it would be received. And you don't have to say anything. And this is how, in my opinion, sports work anyway. When you're not playing well, you don't have a voice. Or, and that's not the case for Stolarz, or if your past behavior has been a little suspect, you don't have that voice. And you can't forget that last year he exited the postseason because he was grazed by Sam Bennett. And Sammy, I'm sorry. I've heard you say it before that he got, like, I don't know, decapitated. Not the case
Assaulted.
on that hit. No, Sammy, those don't hurt. Trust me, they don't hurt. We're so padded. It's one of two things. That hit I didn't like at the time because either you wanted out because you weren't sure about yourself, or you're that susceptible to a concussion, so you shouldn't be playing anyway. So for those two reasons, like, I'm worried about you. And you guys know, when that guy's healthy, top 3 goalie in the league all day for me. I love the guy in net. I think he plays a great game. But you can't leave a series the previous year and then chirp the next year. You just hold your lane and shut your mouth, because you can really screw things up in the locker room. That's just the way it works. And, you know, he went a little far, too, with bringing Nylander into it on the back check. I didn't even think that back check was that bad, because, you know what, when you're a goalie, you don't really, unless you watch the game the next day, you don't know the timing of everything. And I even looked at the numbers on, you know, his reference to the screens and stuff, and that's not really the case. I mean, they're not that bad. Screens for the Leafs this year, they're 15th in the NHL. They've had the 15th most. Point shots with no screen, they're tied with Calgary for 6th. And net front at 5-on-5, they're 16th. So I didn't think their numbers were that bad. It doesn't really back up the claim. I think that one issue that you can say and understand is that there's been some history there. So I'd imagine that he's seen the lack of back check and experienced those things, so he had something to say about it. But, you know, look, I think that when it comes to the locker room, it's a sacred thing, and you have to be very careful early in the season not to create something that doesn't need to be created. As I've said before, I think that in the locker room, guys, you can fool your girlfriend, you can fool your wife, you can fool your agent. Sometimes you can fool the coaches, but you can't fool the boys.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I've never heard that before, but interesting.
You know,
Well, you know what I mean, Kipper.
Oh, I do.
Everybody knows
Yes.
in the room.
Yeah.
We all know.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they're telling me some Ken Dryden story about him saying that, you know, as a goalie, it's a good thing if the team fears their goalie a little bit. You know, like has a little bit of a factor like that. And I was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, Billy Smith, definitely. Grant Fuhrfish, probably. You know, you can go,
Henrik. You should have seen Henrik, Morning.
yeah.
Henrik.
Okay.
You know, Henrik was not a choir boy.
Right.
He'd come in. I remember one road trip, Colorado, Minnesota. It was the Minnesota game that Gabrick had 5 on him. And he came in and did like $25,000 worth of damage to the locker room.
Oh, my.
Like, I mean, just trashed the place. And, you know, like, he was that pissed off. And you know what? If I don't want a choir boy for a goaltender. He could be a civilian, good guy off the ice, this and that. But on the ice, I want a maniac. And, you know, I'm sorry, that's what Henrik was. And he was a killer on the ice.
I mean, post-game, Henrik, the media attention, he was one of the first guys they always went to. Was he critical? Was he selective on the things that he said after the game?
He seemed, you know what, Kipper, he was always right on it. You know, like if he was playing really well, he may have a little more to say, but with his credibility, he could say anything and be as honest and as blunt as he would want to be. But look, my point with Stolars is that just don't put that attention on yourself, man. You're a really good goalie. If I was somebody on the coaching staff, that's exactly what I would have said to him, person to person.
One more for me, and you can speak of this because you lived the position, you played the position. If a couple of guys on a team are pissed off at a goalie, is there a chance subconsciously they could play different around you?
Oh man, that's such a good question. I believe in that all the way. You know, I believe in people sticking up for people that they love.
Because I've had teammates, Valley, not to cut you off, but I've had teammates saying, "You think I'm going to block a shot for that guy now?"
Yeah. Hey, buddy, as a backup that played once every 2 weeks, can you imagine the teammate I was? I'm giving tips, I'm juggling, I'm backflipping. Anybody want more shots?